Just so you know, Disney remakes were also a thing in the 90s. Most of you just never knew it yet. Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new Christmas-themed movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a, believe it or not, a Disney remake. And it's not a new one. It's one that was actually long before the ones we're familiar with today. It was for one of the first few they tried to do back then. Back then they did try to do some around the 90s, but it didn't necessarily work out that well. Unlike today where they're pathetic money makers, this was back when they weren't frequent and when they were actually evenly spaced out, or if they were done for a proper reason. But there was definitely one in 1996 that I do like, and the reason why I'm in the Christmas background wearing a Christmas sweater, Christmas hat, is because technically speaking, this kind of is somewhat of a, maybe sometimes I consider this a Christmas movie. It's kind of set around, it's somewhat, I think, set around the holidays around that time. It's not about Christmas per se, but sometimes oddly enough, here it sometimes can be considered a Christmas film, but this is going to be for none other than 1996's live-action remake of 101 Dalmatians. And it's literally written by, believe it or not, John Hughes, rest in peace. The very producer of Home Alone. And some director of some movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club. But anyway, what's the plot? Well, it's almost similar to the animated film, except there's a bit of differences. Where after a wild chase in the bustling streets of London, instead of being a music author in this one, computer game author Roger and his pet Dalmatian Pongo, by a welcome twist of fate, get dragged to St. James Park and meet with charming fashion designer Anita and her pet Dalmatian Perdita. Soon, one thing leads to another, and before they know it, Roger and Anita get married and Perdita gets pregnant. But that joy is short-lived and disrupted when Anita's glamorous but horrible boss, Cruella de Vil, dog naps the innocent 15 puppies with the intention of making a luxurious coat with their fabulously spotted fur, and eventually along with Perdita's fur as well. Cruella, though, manages to bring the total to a staggering number of 99 Dalmatians puppies. And it begins a chase. But anyway, guys, how is this made? Well, believe it or not, when it comes to the animatronic creatures used in the film, those were provided by Jim Henson's Creature Shop, and producer Edward St. Feldman guaranteed the adoption of every puppy used in the film. Over 300 Dalmatian puppies were used over the course of filming because they could only use them when they were 5 or 6 weeks old at their cutest. And filming took place at the Shepperton Studios in London. And the film screenwriter John Hughes approached, when it came to casting Cruella de Vil, he immediately already had Glenn Close in mind, but originally, at first, she turned it down. Then the film's costume designer Anthony Powell was working with Close on the Broadway show Sunset Boulevard, who he himself convinced her to take it, which she ended up doing. And of course, Minster Court was used as the exterior of Cruella de Vil's fashion house. The surround chase was used as the exterior of her home. And Cruella's car was a modified 1976 Panther de Ville. Not like the 1961 animated film, none of the animals speak. Yeah. This one, the animals are just normal animals. There's no voiceover like in-head thoughts like Homeward Bound. There's no CGI gross mouths like we have today. No. They're actually all quiet in this one. That's another big difference. The only ones that talk are the humans. So anyway, guys, after this film was shot and marketed, 101 Dalmatians, the 1996 version, would go on to be released around Thanksgiving time of American Thanksgiving time, around November 27th, 1996. And it made a pretty decent profit at the box office, because it made up to around $320 million worldwide in theaters against the budget of $67 million. And it was the sixth highest grossing film of 1996. And when it comes to the awards, Glenn Close got nominated for Best Actress at Golden Globe Awards, and the film was nominated for a BAFTA award for Best Makeup and Hair. Of course, well, we all know the animated film got a sequel called 101 Dalmatians 2: Patch's London Adventure for the direct-to-DVD follow-ups. So did this one. Not the same sequel, though, because this sequel it got was made before Patch's London Adventure. The sequel this version got was a movie literally called 102 Dalmatians. And I'll say this short, guys. I like this one, but I'll get some more of that in a bit. But the sequel, no. 102 Dalmatians, I think, is really lame and very disappointing. It's just basic. 102 Dalmatians, I think, is basically just the first movie, except just less enjoyable. This time, just different characters. That's really it. And an annoying parrot that just never shuts up. And I do like Eric Idle, guys, but his character in that movie is just annoying. And the only ones that even come back for the sequel are Glenn Close and Tim McKemedy. Then, of course, a spin-off film was released in 2021 titled Corleone. Now let's get back to the review. For my reaction to this movie, let me say my thoughts on the 1961 movie first. The 1961 animated film, I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of Disney's greatest animated features. And it's the first of their lineup, and probably the first of their lineups to have a chilling and great villain that people still remember. And honestly, it's the first one to not be based off a fairy tale. One of the first to not be based off a fairy tale. Of the animated films they did, it was one of the first ones to not be based off a princess or a fairy tale at all. Well, technically speaking, unless you count Pinocchio, but Pinocchio kind of is a fairy tale. They're first to not be like 60 minutes if you count Dumbo. Some can argue like Sleeping Beauty was the first to have a chilling villain, or Snow White, but Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty is a decent villain. And Maleficent was only like a few minor scenes. And to be honest, guys, I know people love Sleeping Beauty, but I think that's one of Disney's more of the older films they did, the first films they did, that's one of their most forgettable and cliche films, because the princess in that film, Aurora, doesn't really do much, gets cursed by a wheel, and just is out most of the film. So really, that's the point of, what's the point of the film being even about her, if she's just going to be unconscious a good chunk of the film? So yeah, I think Sleeping Beauty is one of their more overrated films. It's just not memorable. Now when it comes to... So yeah, I think Cruella was the first Disney villain to actually be memorable. Now when it comes to this movie, when it comes to the 101 Dalmatians, like, Cruella isn't actually is more memorable than ones like Maleficent, because in this one, Cruella's actually in a good chunk of the movie, and she plays a more prominent villain role to be considered actually memorable. She has iconic lines, as is her fury with those and her two idiot henchmen, who are also very good gold to watch in both versions. But now for my thoughts on this version, the live action movie. I saw the trailers for this on the Toy Story VHS when I had that as a kid, whenever I would pop that movie on any day during my elementary days, and then around first grade, in class that day, believe it or not, we actually apparently had this 101 Dalmatians day where us students all dressed up in dog costumes while our teacher dressed up as Cruella de Vil herself. And then we actually watched this version in class. And I gotta say, guys, now, Disney remakes suck balls today, but for this one, this is back when they actually weren't overforced. We didn't have to see a Disney. We never saw their remakes every fucking few seconds, and they weren't done quick. They were constantly being done. They were actually not coming out for a long time, and they were not barely even a thing. And for a Disney remake for this movie, this is actually one that does not feel like a bastardization or a woke bastardization of the animated film. This was actually made with passion and heart, and it actually respects the source material. And it even made Cruella even more memorable with the performance of Glenn Close. Now, yeah, the animated movie is still better, but this movie is one of the few live-action Disney remakes I think is fun and enjoyable. Sure, it kind of copies Home Alone a little bit in the third act, but the fact that it's done by animals and ones with no dialogue actually just makes it more funny as hell. And guys, I don't care if there's no dialogue in the film. Sometimes no dialogue can be great. Okay, there's lots of times when no dialogue movies are actually good. I've seen a lot of films with no dialogue. Like, I noticed something about this version, like, John Hughes literally started out writing about these adults with childlike tendencies, like National Lampoon movies, for example, then went on to actual teenagers with films like 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Out, and down to preteens, Home Alone 1 and 2, and Dennis the Menace. And literally then babies, for Baby's Day Out. And ever since then, he had finished completely The Ageless of Human. He then moved on his version of film to the Animal Kingdom for 101 Dalmatians. Like, you know the basic storyline if you've seen the 1961 original, like, Roger and Nina meet, marry then their respective Dalmatians, Pongo, Perdita get married as well, have 15 puppies, and are coveted by then those puppies get kidnapped by the despicable Cruella de Vil, who will have them at any cost to make a puppy fur coat. And what's new this time around? It's all live action, for one, and the formidable assistance of computers helps create the illusion of dogs and other creatures acting with almost human precision. Plus the fact that instead of the animals talking, having voices, they're just completely voiceless against the human baddies, especially Horace and Jasper. Like, it's almost as if the Animal Kingdom were channeling Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, right here. As if the animals are basically Kevin McAllister, and Jasper and Horace in this version are pretty much Harry and Marv. If Harry and Marv had a boss, because originally in Home Alone, Uncle Frank was going to be the main antagonist of the movie, actually going to be much more unlikable than what we got in the actual Home Alone film, and Harry and Marv weren't even going to be the main villains. They were originally going to be Uncle Frank's lackeys, but John Hughes and Chris Columbus just chose not to go through with that because it probably wouldn't work, but you get the point. And there's a other villain added to it, named Skinner, who was not in the original. And of course, because John Hughes wrote the script, this is definitely not some Shakespeare slapstick mouse at the forefront, like with cute but noble good guys, ugly dumb bad guys, and lots of adorable animals. Not just all done by Dalmatians, mind you. There's actually more dogs, like sheepdogs, bulldogs, terriers, etc., and some farm animals too, like horses, sheep, raccoons, rabbits, chickens, pigs, cows, birds, and even a mouse in one instance. All of them literally bound together to bring the Dalmatians, all warn one of them together safely. Which only in the original animated movie, it was mostly kind of just other dogs helping them occasionally, then just disappearing after one scene. Where most of that time it was just Pongo, Perdita, and their kids trying to get back. This one, a whole bunch of animals of all species actually rallied together to keep the pups safe from Cruella. So I like that more dogs and more animals play a role in this one. In the original, you do have like just this cat, police dog, this collie, a Labrador that help Pongo Perdita get the pups back and get home. And this time it's like all of nature giving Cruella and their goons their compounds, and it's even more hilarious and satisfying. And when it comes to the performances of the movie, Glenn Close I think is very great as Cruella, and the guys who play the two crooks, Jasper and Horace, are good as well. And I will say this, I do actually enjoy Glenn Close as an actress. Like, to me, her best role is no doubt Fatal Attraction, and she even still has some of those intimidating moments her character from Fatal Attraction had in this movie as well. And yeah, so Glenn Close was literally born to play the live version of Cruella de Vil. Like, some like foolish critics that I don't care about are a little iffy about her performance, but I disagree with that. But like yeah, sure. She doesn't have like quite the intimidatingness that Betty Lou Gerson had like in the 1961 movie, but it's still a lot of fun watching her stomp around those ridiculous outfits and chew the scenery mercilessly. And then when it comes to Jasper and Horace, like Hugh Glary actually gives a spot performance as Jasper, who's one of the bumbling henchmen that adds this jolt of energy for the movie whenever he's on camera. And honestly, I don't think there's any bad performances in 101 Dalmatians. And definitely not from the human cast because, well, technically speaking, there are no performances from the animal cast because they don't talk. In its favor, the screenplay goes to a lot of trouble to keep many of the most memorable elements of the original, like the scene where Roger revives Lucky, the Twilight Bark, the puppies escape from the sinister old house while the henchmen are watching TV. Like, it couldn't have been easy to pull these scenes off even with the CGI animal trainers, And when it comes to missing or problematic stuff, well, puppies are darn adorable, of course, and the scenes where there's massive numbers of little Dalmatian pups swarming down staircases, across fields, hiding in hay barns, are exactly as adorable and eye-catching as you'd expect, but unlike the original, in which 4 or 5 of the puppies had speaking parts, none of the puppies have any personalities. Like, it's similar, neither do Pongo or Perdita. They don't really come into focus as people either. They're mostly kind of blank canvases in which you have to project emotions, but you can definitely tell the emotions they have if you've watched the original movie. And more importantly, like, the most intense part of the original plot is where the fleeing dogs manage to sneak onto a movie van under the nose of the pursuers, which is Jasper, Horace, and Cruella de Vil, with a thrilling car chase this time, that gets tossed aside here. Instead of that here, the difference is Cruella just meets her Waterloo at the hands of the animals in the hay barn in a series of clever pratfalls, and the henchmen just sort of kind of stumble around the countryside and eventually get fed up and turn themselves into the police. And another difference is the character of Roger. He's still the first person we see in the movie, along with Pongo. It begins where this time, instead of being like a musician, Roger's now a video game designer. And he lives with his pet Dalmatian still in London. And then Pongo sets his eyes on Perdita, another Dalmatian. And after a chase that literally ends in St. James Park, Roger discovers that Pongo likes Perdita. Well, at first, after the whole incident, he first thinks Perdita's Pongo and tries to take her, but Anita says, "Stop taking my dog," and whacks Roger with her purse. Well, Roger was too angry in that moment, and he thought Perdita was Pongo. So that's why he took her. He didn't know that was not Pongo. They looked similar. Well, Pongo was hiding and stuff, but after that moment, Anita falls in love with Roger when they meet, and they return to Roger's home, and Anita accepts his proposal straight away, and they get married along with Perdita and Pongo. And Anita still works as a fashion designer for Cruella de Vil, who's her boss, who has a deep passion for fur, who has this taxidermist, Mr. Skinner, skin this white tiger named Suline at the London Zoo, make her into a rug fur. Then Anita, inspired by her Dalmatian, designs a coat made with spotted fur. Then Cruella gets intrigued by the idea of making garments out of actual Dalmatians, and finds it amusing that it would seem as if she was wearing Anita's dogs. The movie adds, so the Skinner character was definitely not in the original animated movie. He's just kind of a character that gets added to this version. And he has this scar that prevents him from speaking. So he never talks either. Other than that, nearly most of the movie plays out the same. Just a few minor differences. So it's not like an over copy and paste like the Lion King remake was just shot for shot the same movie here. No. There's actually some minor differences in this one to prevent it from being the same movie here. Roger gets a different job, like, well, and then Roger and Nita meets. They do fall in love, but they don't get married till a proposal. Whereas in the original movie, how they meet is like Pongo he's trying to pull Roger towards Anita, and he then then Pongo ties his leash around Roger and Anita together, and they trip into the water. But then they try to comfort each other. They realize that Joyce is making themselves look stupid, and then they start falling in love with each other in the original animated movie, and then it immediately cuts them getting married afterwards. Well, and not only that too, you even have some great dialogue, especially from Hugh Laurie and Mark Williams as Jasper and Horace, who, and for those of you wondering who Mark Williams is, as you Harry Potter fans should know, he plays Mr. Weasley in the Harry Potter films. If you want to refresh your memory about that. Like, the Hugh Laurie and Mark Williams have some perfect little scenes, like, have these perfect scenes together, such as, like, the scene where they're meeting Skinner, where Jasper and Horace first meet Skinner in their first scene in the movie. Alright, now let me tell you something about this block Skinner. Before we meet him, now supposedly when he was quite young, his dog tore open his throat and ripped out his vocal cords, leaving him brutally scarred and completely mute. He cannot talk at all. Now look at me. Pay attention. This is very important. There are two things you must not do with Skinner. Alright, do not look at the horrendous scar on his neck. 2, don't talk to him. Understand? Not a word. Right. Oh, look at the size of that scar. No bloody wonder you can't talk, mates. Excuse me just a minute, would you? Or how about when the animals are literally sabotaging Jasper Horse's attempts to capture the pups, and one of the raccoons actually clogs up their gas pipe with a nut. And then, after Horace has been defrosted because he fell into the frozen pond, and he came out and got frozen for a brief little bit. Ugh, you just had to let those puppies get away, didn't you? Never paying attention. Well, where was you? Where was I? I was not splashing out of the pond. You infuriated the old bag, and if you don't get those puppies back, it is quite literally our heads. Oh, come on. Right, you better get out and check the tailpipe. We got a condensation problem. And one of these days, I'm going to be full up on you. Oh, dude, come on. There, see? And, that's because the nut hits Horace's face when he's told to go out and check the thing, and then on their way there, turn the heat on, will ya? No, not with this thing acting the way she is. I don't want to risk losing power. I can't stand the cold no more. I want heat. Fire, too hot. Or how about when, after they've all gotten arrested, all four of the baddies have got arrested, the puppies have been found, they're getting returned home, and we see the 4 in the car, sitting in defeat as they're about to go to jail. Congratulations. You've just won gold, silver, and bronze in the Morons Olympics. Who won the gold? Shut up! My business, my reputation, my life has been ruined because you 3 incompetent wits let yourselves be outsmarted by a bunch of dumb animals. You call yourselves men? Ha! I see more intelligent pieces of carpet. That's because she thought her skunk was a purse. Well, a skunk was her purse, and she pretty much carried that onto the police car and it sprayed them. The time ends now when it comes to the animals not speaking in this movie, some people can complain about that, but like I've already said, they don't in this one because honestly, if the animals did speak, it would probably just be too clunky, and it would really not fit for a film like this version. It would not even be realistic. I feel like them talking only works in the animated film, and I'm glad they're actually mute and they actually try to act like actual animals this time around. And it just makes the villains' comeuppance even funnier. And how the movie ends is actually pretty gold. In the ending of the final sequence, this terrier follows Jasper and Horace to the mansion, and it finds all the puppies who he helps escape under the duo's noses, and they make their way to a nearby farm, where they're later joined by Pongo and Perdita, and Corleone arrives at the mansion and discovers what has happened. She's angry with the disease's failure, decides to carry out the job herself, and after several mishaps, Jasper Wars discover nearby police looking for Cruella, and they hand themselves in, joining Skinner, who got attacked at the fence trying to kill one of the puppies, Lucky, who got left behind. Then Cruella tracks the puppies to the farm, tries to kill them, but the farm animals carry out a plan to take down Cruella while the puppies escape. They steal her hat and drop a pig on her. Then 3 records drop Cruella into this vat of molasses and gets flown into a pig pen, which pretty much officially defeats her. And then the police arrive and they arrest Cruella de Vil. She gets taken into custody along with Jasper Horse and Skinner. And with her arrest, the downfall of her business and reputation is inevitable. Of course. Then all the Dalmatian puppies get found and they get sent back home. Pongo, Brita, and their puppies get reunited with Roger, Anita, and Nanny. After they got informed that the remaining 84 puppies have no home to go to because they did not get claimed by their owners, so Roger decides to adopt them. And he designs a successful video game featuring Dalmatian puppies that are protagonists and Cruella as the villain. And after the game becomes so successful, they move out of London to the countryside with their millions and have a Dalmatian plantation. Roger and Anita have a baby girl, and the puppies even grow up to become grown-up dogs, and they have puppies of their own. Here. So I actually do like that this version, we actually see them move to the plantation at the end to give the story an even better send-off. Because in the animated one, it ends with them returning home, then Roger decides to write scenes about moving to a Dalmatian plantation, and then it's just really over. The only comeuppance we see of Cruella in the animated film is her car gets wrecked, and she throws a tantrum for her comeuppance, and that's just about it. And Jasper just tells her to shut up. Here, we actually see her and her gang get arrested, which I wish we did see in the animated film. And I like that because it feels like a much better complete comeuppance for Cruella de Vil than just them getting stranded in the middle of nowhere, off the side of the road. And that's it. Now, the reason why this version is not as good as the animated film, though, here's the bad qualities of it. First off, the third act, it's funny at times, but there's times when it just overly seems like it's trying to copy Home Alone with Jasper and Horace and trying to make them the British version of the Wet Bandits. I get John Hughes wrote this, but dude, do you really need to add Home Alone throwbacks in a Disney remake with Jasper and Horace? I mean, Jasper and Horace aren't really the Wet Bandits because in the cartoon movie, they're not as stupid. They're actually much smarter than the Wet Bandits. And I feel like the character of Skinner, he wasn't needed because he just doesn't do much in the story at all. And it's like they just wanted an extra villain or member of Cruella's game and nothing else. And he just gets easily defeated when he tries to go after one of the puppies that you know is going to get saved. And there are some toilet humor references I don't like in here, like the skunk joke at the end, the vat of molasses, or most of the slapstick that has the toilet jokes, and that most of the time get aimed at Cruella. And in the beginning of the movie, in the scene where he meets Anita, Roger just kind of acts like too much of a prick during the scene where he meets her. While Pongo did cause his mishaps, he just grips onto Perdita, and Anita smacks him with her purse. I just feel like them meetings just kind of better done in the animated film. Here, it kind of feels like a little done better there, is all. But even with those bad qualities, I still think the 1996 remake of 101 Dalmatians is still worth watching and buying if you want to see a more real version of the film happen, and want to see a Disney remake that isn't a botched woke crapfest like the ones today. So in the end, 101 Dalmatians 1996 is worth watching and buying if you are a fan of the animated film and want to see the other versions that we got 35 years after the original movie. Anyways, that's it for my review of 101 Dalmatians 1996. If you're wondering how to like 101 Dalmatians 1996, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you love the animated film and want to see a more real-like version of it be shown, then definitely buy the 1996 remake for your Disney collection, no doubt. If you're wondering how I'm going to rate the 1996 101 Dalmatians, I'm going to give the 1996 101 Dalmatians a 7.5 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for the 101 Dalmatians 1996 movie. So you're wondering, what's going to be our next Christmas review? Well, believe it or not, our next one is going to be a full-on rant. Because, well, this is for a Christmas movie that everybody likes, but I don't. and I have to watch this crap like every year. Some of my family likes this one, but I don't. And no, it's not the ones I've praised. No. It's a more romantic one. You'll find out when I review it. But yeah, that's next. But till then, guys, that'll be it for this Christmas review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Don G. Corleone.